If there's one thing everyone loves to fight about, it's statues. Their land use is meant to reflect the shared values of a community, to put the best we have on a pedestal.
I do enjoy a good statue, it has to be said.
In a short time from now, Fort Smith will be erecting a new, privately funded statue to honor the life of Dr. Mike Liggett, a dentist who sadly passed away in 2023. In my opinion, statues like this are a vital need for Fort Smith, so I'm here to count down 5 important statues in Fort Smith, Arkansas. Number 5, Light Horse Statue. When they first put this statue up, I thought it was a U.S. Marshal. It wasn't until I visited the U.S. Marshals Museum, which is on the same tier as Crystal Bridges by the way, that I learned that the statue is actually a light horseman. The light horsemen are a tribal police force dating back to 1797 for the 5 tribes in the Oklahoma Territory, and they worked in partnership with the U.S. Marshals to track fugitives across the frontier, and they even still exist today. This statue was made by Cherokee artist Daniel Horsechief of Sallisaw. It's just under 13 feet tall and made of bronze. It's a commemoration to the reliance that the U.S. Marshals had on the light horsemen. The Marshals couldn't have been so successful in tracking and catching fugitives without their help. The statue isn't of any one particular light horseman, it's a commemoration to all of them. Number 4, General Darby. General William Darby was born here in Fort Smith in 1911 and is considered to be the founder and first commander of the Army Rangers. Darby's service began in World War II. He was one of the first American units to see action against the Nazis in Tunisia, and then later he deployed to Italy, where he was eventually killed in action. They made a movie in 1958 about General Darby called Darby's Rangers, starring James Garner. This statue by Kevin Kress depicts the general on a 1942 Harley-Davidson motorcycle, which he was known to ride during his service in Italy. This photograph of him from the January 1943 issue of Newsweek shows him on the same motorcycle. His arm is outstretched in a forward motion meant to depict towards combat, personifying his quote on the plaque, "Onward we stagger, and if the tanks come, may God help the tanks." This statue is bronze, and it's about 11 feet long and 8 feet high. Number 3, Spirit of the American Doughboy. This was the only statue I didn't get live footage for. I'm sorry, it's not accessible by bicycle. Most of us in town probably aren't aware of its historical significance. In fact, they say it's the second most viewed statue in the United States after the Statue of Liberty. It's the Doughboy statue outside the American Legion on Midland. No, it's not this exact statue that's the second most viewed. It's one of 159 statues just like it across the country. The entire world was staggered by the tremendous loss of life during the First World War, and this is one of a series meant to commemorate the American service members who fought and died during the conflict. What makes our statue in Fort Smith unique is that it's only one of 2 copies to be registered on the National Register of Historic Places. The only other statue with this distinction happens to be Arkansan as well. It's in Helena. The statue was designed by Ernest Moore Viquesney in 1920 and eventually sculpted by Paul Moorman. It's brass, just under 6 feet tall, and depicts a doughboy holding a rifle in his left hand and a grenade in his right hand. Number 2, Bass Reeves. Bass Reeves is said to be the most successful lawman in American history, and he got that way by serving from right here. He probably walked right where his statue is now. Bass Reeves was a U.S. Deputy Marshal who arrested so many outlaws that history is blurry. It's somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 fugitives that he brought to justice, with at least 14 of them losing their life to him. There's too much to say about Bass Reeves in just one video about statues. The man has his own TV show on Paramount Plus, and that's not even the first show about him. He's said to be the inspiration for the Lone Ranger. There's an episode of Drunk History about him. He's a character in multiple Western movies, and he's even an NPC in the upcoming survival video game, Nightingale. This 25-foot tall bronze statue is titled Into the Territories and was sculpted by Harold T. Holden in 2012. Bass Reeves is facing across the river to Oklahoma Territory, and it's also significant that the statue is so close to the border because Bass Reeves is a legend that Arkansas and Oklahoma can share equally. Everything Reeves normally took into Oklahoma are on the statue, including the Winchester rifle and the dog. The base of the statue is built from the original curb from Garrison Avenue. So if Bass Reeves is number 2, you ought to know who's number 1. It's Isaac Parker. Canadian YouTuber JJ McCullough has a series of videos about fake touchstones of cities that people think are unique to their city, but are actually incredibly common across North America. And one example he gave is to have a hanging judge. Apparently a lot of other cities likes to say that they have a hanging judge. Well, JJ, Fort Smith has the real hanging judge. If you look up the Wikipedia article for hanging judge, he's the only person from the USA on there. Isaac Parker is perhaps our town's most beloved resident. On his first day here, he sentenced 8 people to death, and over the next 21 years, he would hand the sentence to 156 more, with 79 executions, and the other 81 either pardoned, commuted, or dead in custody from other causes. This statue from 2019 is meant to symbolize law and order in a series of 3 statues, the other 2 being Mother Superior Mary Teresa Farrell to represent healthcare, and John Carnall to represent education. Parker's statue is bronze, maybe 8 feet high, and he's facing to the northeast towards Washington, D.C. Alright, that's it. Who still needs a statue? Some of my ideas for statues are John Rogers, Daisy Gatson Bates, or Asa Hutchinson. Who would you pick for Fort Smith's next statue?